It's the worst film ever made.
There's so much money made in Hollywood, it draws all the wrong people, and he was certainly one of them.
Viewers of this channel will know that I am always ready to stand up for certain films that have earned less than stellar reputations, readily pointing out unappreciated strengths where appropriate. No such defense, however, can be mounted for The Creeping Terror, still less for its unscrupulous creator, perhaps one of the most terrifying monsters ever to menace the silver screen. I'm Tyler Martin, and this is Monsters from the Id. The Creeping Terror is widely considered one of the worst movies ever made. But when one considers the story of its creation and the real creep responsible, it is elevated to an entirely different level of bad. This twisted tale of a scoundrel and his monstrous opus has become the stuff of Hollywood legend. Known under a multitude of aliases, the man who would come to be known as Vic Savage was among the legions of would-be talents drawn to Hollywood with delusions of grandeur. But our subject today was no mere starry-eyed dreamer, for to know Vic was to know hell. Born in 1933 in Bridgeport, Connecticut, Arthur Nelson White came from a broken home, with an abusive alcoholic for a father. Showing an early knack for getting into no good, the boy was sent to reform school at the age of 10, and upon leaving at 18 had developed a flair for manipulation, and began a notorious career as a hustler, regularly landing in jail and changing his identity upon each release. All this scheming and scamming was undertaken in support of his true dream, movie stardom. In 1954, Nelson married Lois Anderson, and the two moved to Hollywood amid promises of a glamorous new life among the stars. Coming from an oppressive home environment herself, Lois seized this opportunity to escape with a man who professed to love her and had come to rescue her. This was, of course, a complete lie. Far from the kind-hearted romantic who had captured her heart, Art proved to be a profoundly neglectful, abusive husband and father. Nelson often disappeared for days or weeks at a time to, as he put it, make connections, leaving Lois alone to care for their sons. For Art, making connections consisted of brazen con jobs, drug abuse, and extramarital affairs, all ostensibly to help him get his foot in the door as an actor and filmmaker. At one point, they shared a home with a call girl who headed a sex ring which involved numerous individuals, some underage, and, unsurprisingly, Art himself. Throughout it all, Lois kept telling herself that her husband was truly a good man, that he was simply reacting negatively to the stress involved in becoming a star, and that once his dream was realized, they would finally lead the blissful existence he had promised. In 1959, Nelson's long-cherished project, a delinquent youth film called Street Fighter, was finally realized. Directed by Joseph Sargent, this picture proved a difficult production due to Art's own erratic and irresponsible behavior. The film tanked at the box office and is now considered lost, all prints supposedly being ordered destroyed by Nelson's relatives. Soon after, following years of unfathomable physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, Lois had finally had enough. The couple divorced in 1960, and she took their children back to Connecticut. Unperturbed, Nelson, whose existence heretofore had been defined by delinquency and small-time hustles, next embarked on what would become the biggest hustle of his career. With the aim of producing, directing, and starring in the greatest monster movie of all time, Nelson, by this time using the screen name Vic Savage, commissioned a story treatment from writer Alan Silliphant, younger brother of Sterling Silliphant of Perry Mason and Route 66 fame, who envisioned an over-the-top spectacle involving a crawling abomination emerging from an alien spacecraft, running amok in the vicinity of Lake Tahoe and devouring victims by the truckload. To finance this ambitious venture, Savage made arrangements with a considerable number of guileless investors, offering them on-screen roles in exchange for funds. Chief among these was actor and model William Thurlby, the original Marlboro Man.
Everything went downhill from then. He wouldn't show up I could, you know, he was playing the big man with his money, and out of the 25, if he put 5 into the picture, I doubt it.
His conduct led to serious personal and creative conflicts. The creature designer, John Lackey, still waiting on his promised pay and fed up with Vic's nonsense, allegedly repoed the monster he had created for the picture just prior to filming, forcing Savage and his crew to hastily assemble another, far less impressive beast. Presumably as a cost-cutting measure, scenic Lake Tahoe was replaced with Los Angeles' notorious Spahn Ranch, home to the Manson family cult. Ultimately, with word of his misdeeds having spread and law enforcement closing in, Savage fled to Florida, where he was subsequently arrested on a multitude of charges.
So I went over to his home. There's a truck in there moving him out, taking all the furniture and everything. And I said, walked up to the chap and said, "What's going on here? Where's Mr. Nelson?" "Who?" "Art Nelson, this is his home." "I don't know. Nobody's here anymore, and they didn't pay for anything, so we're taking all the furniture and everything." And I looked over there and I saw an old dirty cardboard box. A little boy said, "Willie, there's the picture." And sure enough, there are piles of film in there, just thrown in. Some unreal, some just loose. And I said, "I don't believe this." So, but amazing, no one said a thing. I just picked it all up, said, "Thank you, take care," and walked off.
Determined to make the most of what he had, Thirlby consulted with some associates in the film business, and together they assembled the Creeping Terror as it is known today. As there was no soundtrack among the materials retrieved by Thirlby, the dialogue was largely replaced with expository narration.
In response to a multiple missing persons report, Martin and Barney searched the countryside for the group of picnickers. The only trace they found of them was the remains of a guitar one of them carried. Acting on his superior authority, he forbade Caldwell to destroy the creature. The colonel, more concerned with saving human lives than advancing science, told Bradford to go to hell.
The film, as we know it now, is an absurd, amateurish disaster which has earned great notoriety as an accidental comedy.
It's ridiculous. The guy and the girl's kissing on a log in the forest. You see this awful-looking monster coming towards you. What is the first thing they do? They sit together, they scream, and the monster gobbles them up. 10 people sitting there screaming, and the monster's they don't run, but they just sit there. The monster comes up on top of the back of the car and starts having relations with a Czechoslovakian Skoda convertible.
It has been reported that the film found by Thirlby consisted of outtakes, and that Savage had put together the true version while fleeing from the law. Even if this claim is legitimate, given what we know of the man's behavior and ability, it's hard to imagine it being much better than the movie we now know. In any case, this version, if it ever existed, seems unlikely to surface. Art Nelson, alias Vic Savage, alias Arthur White, alias
AJ, a jerk.
never made another film. He spent the rest of his days in and out of jail, engaging in still more petty hustles and substance abuse, and in May 1975 was found lying face down in an alley in Kansas City, Kansas, dead from liver failure at age 41, leaving the nagging question unanswered. Did he truly set out to make the greatest monster movie of all time, or was it just another hustle? Only God knows for sure. So ends the saga of one of Hollywood's most vile unsung creeps. For the sake of brevity and good taste, some of the more unseemly aspects of this story have been omitted. For further details, you can check the links in the description. I would like to extend tremendous personal thanks to filmmaker Pete Schuerman for providing valuable information and interview materials. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more Monsters from the Id. Monstrous thanks to those who already have. As ever, thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.